Despite America being a country founded by a group of immigrants seeking out refuge where they could exercise freedoms and be themselves, the United States quickly developed a sense of nativism. Nativism and xenophobia is the fear of foreigners and the policy of protecting one's own national interest and identity from outsiders and their influence. Nativism has manifested itself in many different forms and places throughout our history. One of the first organized and unified xenophobic movements began in the 1840s in retaliation to the quickly rising immigration from Germany and Ireland in the 1830s. Between the potato famine in Ireland and a revolution in Germany, many people were leaving their countries in search of homes and jobs. But when immigrants began arriving in mass, many Americans came to feel that their culture and livelihood was being threatened by these outsiders. Not only did Americans become unwelcoming to immigrants, but coalitions and parties began to form in opposition to them. One of the most successful parties during this time was the Know Nothing Party, formed by Louis Charles Levin in 1844. The Know Nothings feared that Roman Catholic immigrants were more loyal to the Pope than they were to America. They also believed that Catholics had an agenda to take over the nation and then place it under the Pope's rule. The Know Nothings felt politically, economically, and religiously threatened by the large amount of people coming to America and claimed that they were taking jobs and controlling political offices. The Know Nothings flourished in the 1850s, and the party quickly came into political power, calling for immigration restrictions, exclusion of foreigners from holding public offices and voting, as well as a 21-year residency requirement to qualify for citizenship. In 1855, Know Nothings gained a lot of traction in politics, with 43 members in Congress and control over the Massachusetts legislature. But the political standing of the Know Nothing Party in 1855 was the peak of their power. In 1856, the Know Nothing Party proposed another xenophobic platform with 16 ideals which they would work towards, including number 2,
none but Americans for office.
Number 9,
more stringent and effective immigration laws.
And number 16,
American laws and American legislation and death to all foreign influences, whether in high places or low.
Despite this nationalistic platform, at the next election the party was split into pro-slavery and anti-slavery, losing their unity and therefore their traction. The Know Nothing Party quickly crumbled after 1856. Anti-slavery Know Nothings joined the Republicans, and pro-slavery flocked to join the Southern Democrats. The remaining Know Nothings eventually merged with the old Whigs. Following the end of World War I in 1918 and the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia in 1917, the first Red Scare began in the United States. The Red Scare was characterized by a national feeling of fear and anxiety over communists, anarchists, socialists, and anyone who appeared to threaten America's core values in capitalistic democracy. Because of this fear, innocent people were suddenly being jailed and arrested for doing nothing more than voicing their opinions. The Bill of Rights went out the window, as every person who didn't show an overwhelming amount of patriotism was viewed as a threat and an enemy to the nation. During World War I, radical patriotism had taken hold. George Creel, who was the chairman of the United States Committee on Public Information at the time, was spreading intense propaganda about staying true to the nation and fighting against all people who opposed it. This mentality, along with an anarchist bombing, is what spurred the first Red Scare after the conclusion of the war. During the First World War, nearly 9 million people were employed by wartime industries, and 4 million were serving in the armed forces. So once the war was over, nearly all of these people were jobless, and economic issues skyrocketed. Because of economic problems and low pay, workers began to strike. One of the first large strikes following World War I was the 1919 Seattle shipyard strike. In January, over 30,000 Seattle workers went on strike, which was soon followed up in February with a general strike where 60,000 workers struck. Even though they were nonviolent strikes and there was no evidence of a hidden agenda, every striker was labeled as a Red. It was believed that they were communists who were attempting to start an uprising. There was much fear throughout the nation that America could have its own Bolshevik revolution. Soon Seattle was in hysterics, as every store was overtaken by customers trying to prepare for survival of a long strike or possibly something more. The story soon dominated the headlines of national newspapers, saying that Seattle had been lost to the Reds. Any strikes to follow were characterized as offenses against America or crimes against society. As riots and strikes erupted across the nation, fear of a communist revolution spiraled intensely at an astounding rate. Soon, every government department and branch was under review, and people accused of communist activity could easily be fired or deported or imprisoned. People could be arrested for simply looking like a radical. Arrests were made without warrants and totally ignored American civil liberties. 4,000 people were arrested and labeled as radicals without any proven evidence. But by the end of 1920, the Red Scare was petering out and coming to a close.
Dawn, December 7, 1941, the Pacific Ocean. A Japanese task force was also heading for Oahu. Mission, sneak attack. Primary targets, Pearl Harbor and Hickam Field. Exactly at 0600, the fateful signal was given. And the first wave, 200 fighters, horizontal bombers, torpedo bombers, and dive bombers roared off.
After Pearl Harbor was attacked by the Japanese in December of 1941, America swelled with fear of Japanese spies living within the nation and the possibility of Japanese Americans working from the inside to take down the U.S. government. On February 19, 1942, President Roosevelt authorized the deportation and incarceration of nearly all people in the U.S. of Japanese ancestry with Executive Order 9066.
I hereby authorize and direct the Secretary of War to prescribe military areas in such places and of such extent as he or the appropriate military commander may determine, from which any or all persons may be excluded. The designation of military areas in any region or locality shall supersede designations of prohibited and restricted areas by the Attorney General under the proclamations of December 7 and 8, 1941.
This order denied American civil liberties and the Bill of Rights, as it called for military commanders to designate areas where any or all persons may be excluded of Japanese origin. At this time, there were approximately 130,000 people of Japanese ancestry living on the mainland, and nearly all of them were relocated. More than two-thirds of these people were American citizens and had established family roots in the country. Yet their rights were blatantly ignored as they were sent away to internment camps and kicked out of their homes en masse. All people of Japanese ancestry from the West Coast, including Washington, Oregon, California, and Arizona, were planned to be sent away to internment camps. At first, it was only new immigrants and second-generation Japanese citizens who were taken away. But as fears progressed, so did the restrictions on Japanese Americans. Soon, they were being told that they could not go near highway bridges, radio stations, or train tunnels. In addition to this, their travel was restricted, businesses were taken away, and their accounts were frozen, all because of racial profiling and nativist fears. People at the time truly believed that Japanese citizens could not become fully American and that they were threatening the integrity and safety of the nation. The expulsion of Japanese from their homes began in March of 1942 in the Puget Sound region. In cities, the local government posted signs on telephone poles giving only a few days' warning before their evacuation would take place. They were only allowed to take what they could carry with them, and many people did not have time to make arrangements for the rest of their belongings or property. For the following 3 to 4 years, Japanese suffered through life in internment camps, being stripped of all their rights. But finally, in 1945, the camps were closed one by one, and Japanese Americans could go home. After 8 years of a liberal president pushing for health care for all, national legalization of same-sex marriage, and other progressive matters, the campaign of Donald Trump gave Americans who did not agree with these liberal views a voice. Extreme conservatives felt that they could finally be represented by a politician like Trump. Much of the driving force of his campaign, and now in his presidency, has been the idea that our American jobs, economy, and identity is being stolen by foreigners. He is spreading the feeling that illegal immigrants and immigrants in general are the cause of our problems in the U.S. and that they are dangerous people who are taking jobs.
I mean, you take a look at this. It's one way. Mexicans get the jobs. They get the factories, they get the cash, and all we get illegal immigration and we get drugs.
He proposed to build a wall on the U.S.-Mexican border to keep immigrants out, and he claims that he is still set on that goal. He did take the first solid step towards making this happen when he signed the Border Security and Immigration Enforcement Improvements Order. This order calls for an impassable barrier along America's southern border, as well as 5,000 Border Patrol agents. Trump also passed an order which made it priority to deport all undocumented citizens who have committed a crime. This includes the smallest of offenses, such as overstaying a visa or not being inspected at the border. This puts over 11 million people at risk of deportation. Another xenophobic action Trump has taken so far in his short time as president is his executive order on immigration, which passed on January 27, 2017. This order excludes immigrants from 7 primarily Muslim countries, and many are calling it a Muslim ban.
The visa issuance process plays a crucial role in detecting individuals with terrorist ties and stopping them from entering the United States. And while the visa issuance process was reviewed and amended after the September 11 attacks to better detect would-be terrorists from receiving visas, these measures did not stop attacks by foreign nationals who were admitted to the United States.
As a result of this order, the entire United States refugee program was suspended for 120 days, and the Syrian refugee program was closed forever. The order also banned the entry of people from 7 Muslim-majority nations: Iraq, Iran, Yemen, Syria, Sudan, Somalia, and Libya for 90 days after January 27th when the order was signed. In addition to this, the order lowered the annual number of refugees accepted into America from 110,000 to 50,000 per year.
Countries in which immigration will be suspended would include places like Syria and Libya. And we are going to stop the tens of thousands of people coming in from Syria. We have no idea who they are, where they come from. There's no documentation, there's no paperwork.
There has been a great amount of backlash against these orders, but that does not change the fact that we are living in a time of powerful nativism and xenophobia, and there is currently a president who actively promotes those ideals. But these are not new ideas in America. From the Know Nothing Party and their fear of foreigners, to the Red Scare and the national panic over foreign influence, to Japanese internment based solely upon false accusations, and up to today, with our current state of xenophobia, we are able to see just how deeply rooted nativist ideals are in America. While our view of nativism and xenophobia may have changed over time, the core concept of protecting our history and fearing foreign influence has remained throughout both our progress and our setbacks.